Blessings, namaste, and love, everyone. I'm spiritualist, psychic astrologer, and medium Ray Sette. As always, I thank you for offering me this opportunity to share with you my astrological and spiritual insights. And now, as we begin our new year of 2023. Now, we begin January with a Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury has been retrograde since December 29th. It will move direct on January 18th. And as I've said many times in the past, not until Mercury moves past the point at which it turned retrograde are we completely out of the retrograde energies, and that is on February 7th. Now, this Mercury retrograde is in the sign of Capricorn. Now, as with all planetary phenomenon, it's more specific to the individual as to where it's actually applied in our charts. I'm offering just some general understandings of the influences, but as I always suggest to recognize that once we apply the points to the precise points in our charts, then we can have a little bit more of a personal understanding as to how all of this applies to us individually, and that's what we do during consultations. But in this segment, I just offer you some general insights to keep as a point of reference in the back of your mind. Now, with the Mercury retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, Capricorn is the sign that most represents our career, our profession, long-term goals, and it's my understanding that it's also very indicative to our greater purpose. So this Mercury retrograde, as all Mercury retrogrades benefit us, it's a time to go within and reflect. And we use the specific elements like the Capricorn sign as to how to understand where it is that we need to direct our attention as to what it is that we are reflecting upon. So in the sign of Capricorn, we reflect upon our career, our profession, our greater purpose, and if we're not clear as to any of those elements as to what that might be, the retrograde time is a time to go within and to receive that clarity. Remember, the Mercury retrograde, we remember all the RE words, and that is what we employ during a Mercury retrograde. Remember, all planetary aspects, alignments have a greater purpose when we understand how to work with the energy and not against it. All of this has been designed as assistance, as a tool to help guide us and to help navigate our human experience. And with Mercury retrograde, as always, it's a time to go within, to step back, to reflect, to revisit things that you may have gotten away from, reconnect with longtime friends. Mercury retrograde, it's also the opportunity to receive, because when we step back, we shift gears and we begin to receive. And again, just to reiterate, Mercury moved retrograde on December 29th. It will move direct on January 18th, and on February 7th is when we are completely out of the Mercury retrograde influences. Now, I've mentioned many times that astrologically, from an astrological understanding, the new day begins at the moment of sunrise locally. Now, each area, each geographical location will have a different time for that exact moment. So for me, I observe the beginning of the new year to begin at the moment of sunrise on New Year's Day and not at midnight, as so many of us really understand. And for my calculations, I use the location of Lubeck, Maine, where I calculate as to what I use to calculate the New Year chart, if you will. Now, Lubeck, Maine is the first place in the United States that observes the sunrise. So that takes place on January 1st at 6:06 a.m. That begins January 1st, the new day and the new year. As I said, each day astrologically begins at the exact moment of sunrise. That's when our new day begins. You know, the cycles, the astrological cycles, are really universal planetary time clocks that we really are intended to work with. We've just not been conventionally taught and to recognize how to work with this energy. And because so much is shifting right now towards higher levels of consciousness, many more are embracing these higher knowings. And what I emphasize with the astrological chart that is cast for New Year's Day, on that day, there is an exact alignment with Pluto and Venus. Now, in previous videos, I suggested to recognize how the eclipse points that we had in October and November were portals for us to really embrace our personal power. Now, with this alignment between Venus and Pluto, it's a most auspicious opportunity to recognize the power of love and bring that forth into this new year, as well as any other times moving forward. Venus is the element that most represents love. Pluto is the one that characterizes great power. And when any two things come together, their qualities are infused with one another. And whenever two elements like two planets come together, for example, as the sun and the moon, even though they're not planets, they're lights, come together at a new moon, it begins a new cycle of experience. So what I suggest as we begin the new year, if it resonates with you, to conduct any type of a meditation, a ritual, a candle ceremony, whatever resonates with you, be mindful to embrace the power of love and really understand that from a place of love. When we fully understand the gravity of that knowing, it's extraordinary what we can tap into, what we can create. Pluto is also the ability to create great things. When we really understand that as always from a place of love and not ego, the ego understanding is a lower vibration of that Pluto element. The higher vibration is the knowing of love. And all that we create really is for the highest good, not only of ourselves, but for everyone. And that's when we enjoy a win-win situation. You see, once we all move to that place of really understanding of that place of love, and that we all can experience a win-win situation in any experience, then we begin to elevate to higher levels of consciousness. I mean, we're already elevating to those higher levels of consciousness. You know, sometimes it seems to be taking a little bit longer than many of us would suggest. However, universal time is always perfect. So if anything, as you begin this new year, really recognize the importance and the gravity of the understanding of the power of love. Infuse that in all that you do and observe how things begin to shift for you in so much more greater and beneficial ways. Now, a week later, we have our first full moon, which is the wolf moon of 2023. Now, this moon, it is in the sign of Cancer. Cancer most represents, among many things, emotions and our home and our home environment. Now, where the full moon is placed in the chart that we cast for the United States, it's in the sector of the chart that represents the subconscious, which is the 12th house, to be more specific. And that which is hidden, that's which operates behind the scenes. In the sign of Cancer placed at that location, many times that is indicative of a release of deep-seated emotional discord, which interferes with our overall wellness. Look at it this way. These deep-seated emotional imbalances are no different than malware on a computer. Malware on a computer, it operates in the background, we're not always aware of it, and it slows down the operational and the operations and functions of the computer. Deep-seated emotional issues that we're not always familiar with have the same effects. They slow us down. Now, I'm keeping it very, very simple. This is a rudimentary explanation of all of this, but what I suggest, if you are having experiences where you are feeling these emotions coming to the surface, it's a time to release them, to clear, cleanse, and purge them. And a full moon is an auspicious opportunity for clearing, cleansing, and purging. I also suggest on the full moon and maybe in the days after, clear, cleanse, and purge any elements in your home which no longer serve a purpose for us. You know, I've said many times that the winter time, that is the more auspicious opportunity for spring cleaning, because whenever we begin anything new, we want to start with a clean slate. So once the spring commences, we want to begin with a clean slate and not necessarily conduct cleaning during a new season. The winter time frame, because it's a time to go within, we direct our attention towards the inside of our home and the wellness, the overall wellness of the home. I've suggested also in many videos in the past that it was the prophet Kahil Gibran who suggested that we recognize the home is the larger body. Whatever manifests in the home, it's only a reflection of all the energetic discord or harmony that is taking place with the occupants of the home. When there's emotional discord within ourselves, we experience a home that is energetically inharmonious. So this full moon is the time to address all that, reflect on the wellness of your home, and really create a sacred place and a sanctuary in your home. You know, when we begin from that perspective and we start from the self, by being in that place of love, just to kind of reiterate what I said earlier about the power of love and beginning this year really with that knowing and that that full profound understanding of what that quality entails and what it is capable of achieving, we create the many blessings for ourselves, and then we radiate these blessings to the all of humanity. Remember, it needs to start from within. It was in 2023 when we began the opportunity of really the knowing of our own personal power, so that we can apply it in the time that we're in now, especially in this new year. It's so much a time for us to apply and really first know the power, our power from a place of love, our personal power from a place of love, and then apply it to every facet of our lives. First we embrace the knowing, and then we have the opportunity to apply it. And in 2023, this is the year for us to apply from that place of love, the power of love from within ourselves. And as I always seem to do, I do digress every once in a while, that with this full moon, release any discordant emotional energies, clear away any clutter that is taking place in your home. In the sign of Cancer, as I said, it represents the emotions, the home, as well as our emotional wellness and the harmony that takes place in our home or the lack thereof. It's a time to correct it. Another point to emphasize regarding the knowing of our personal power, on January 18th, there's an exact alignment between the Sun and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. Now that connects, Capricorn, as I said earlier, connects with our goals, our long-term goals, our career, our profession. But also when Pluto and the Sun come together, it's another opportunity to really infuse that power of our creative being within ourselves. Every one of us is a creative being, and it doesn't mean that it's specific to art or music. Remember, creativity is multifaceted. Pluto is also very much a creative element. And when it comes together with the Sun, it can very much energize our being and reinvigorate the self. So on January 18th, and the exact time of that alignment is 8:12 a.m. That's an auspicious opportunity to tap into the energy of the Sun. Just look to see how grand the Sun is and how much, if it wasn't for the Sun, we couldn't survive. just observe how much energy radiates from that sun. If you are feeling lethargic, just somewhat sluggish, that's an auspicious opportunity to re-energize yourself and really infuse yourself with the energy of the sun. The sun is also creativity. The sun represents is connected to Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. Leo is the element that most represents creativity. The sun is the solar plexus. That's where our creativity really is invigorated. If you're feeling just even stagnant creatively, that's a great day to just tap into that power. Really just kind of invigorate your energetic and creative self on that day. You know, as I said, all of these alignments, they are opportunities for us to really employ as tools. We just have to understand how to use them. And you know, sometimes there's just so many things that take place astrologically, even on any given day, because of how the moon moves so very, very quickly. There can be a multitude, hundreds of alignments, but you know, because we are limited in these realms, I tap into and I just suggest and touch upon the more prominent alignments, just so to continue to inspire you on your journey. Now, our next new moon will be on January 21st, and as I always mention, that before the new moon, the last phase, the last stage of the lunar cycle is what is referred to as the balsamic moon, and that is the time to energetically prepare for the next lunar cycle. The balsamic moon in January begins on January 18th at 10:56 a.m. Eastern time. Whenever I indicate a time, it's Eastern time. Just as a point of reference for you. That, as I said, begins the time to prepare for the next lunar cycle. Now, on January 20th, the sun transits into the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is the element that most represents change, prolific, profound change, but it's change that fortifies creative growth. Aquarius is the sign of the inventor and the sign of the genius. And I always suggest to recognize that every one of us has the potential to tap into genius level thinking, which is not always specific to math and science, which many of us have that point of reference. Genius level thinking, as is creativity, is multifaceted, and every one of us has that ability to tap into that quality, that level, that dynamic of the mind. Genius thinking is the ability to perceive abstractly and outside the box, and when you can apply that in any arena in your lives, you tap into genius level thinking. Remember, every one of us has that potential, and if for whatever reason perhaps you're not recognizing that within yourself, that the transit of the sun through Aquarius is the time for you to recognize your own personal genius in whatever realm, dynamic, and aspect that might be for you personally. And since our new moon is the day after, on January 21st, and the exact time is 3:53 p.m., there's an alignment with the sun and moon in early degree Aquarius. It's the opportunity to really infuse that knowing of your own personal genius within yourself. Pluto is also in close proximity. I mean, granted, it's not necessarily in the same sign, but it's within 3-4 degrees of the new moon. So the ability and the potential to tap into levels of thinking that are extraordinary is available to every one of us, specifically at this new moon. And you know, whenever we allow ourselves the courage to think outside the box, remember that fortifies change and creative growth. And we are very much in the times of great change and creative growth. You know, we hear so much of the New Age and the Age of Aquarius. No one really knows for certain when that time period will commence. By my calculations, I understand that it could begin in the year 2165. I think that's what I came up with. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't enjoy living in harmony, in brotherhood, and experience really such many blessings that every one of us, by birthright, is intended to enjoy abundance and a multifaceted array of blessings. You know, it was in the 60s when we, in the song, The Age of Aquarius, this is the dawning of the Age of Aquarius. It's not the Age of Aquarius, it's the dawning of the Age of Aquarius. And because of specific alignments that took place in the 60s, that really commenced the dawning of the Age of Aquarius. And with the astrological alignments which took place in August of 1987 with what is known as harmonic convergence, it really began to move forward these shifts towards higher levels of consciousness. And as we go through this year, we can certainly experience a quantum leap towards these higher levels of consciousness. That being said, we must not be afraid of what is required on our part to change. Remember, change fortifies creative growth. That Aquarius element does suggest powerful, profound, and prolific change, which shall fortify our spiritual growth and evolution. Once again, I thank you for offering me this opportunity to share with you in very, very brief ways the astrological and spiritual potentials of January 2023 as we begin this new year. I trust everyone enjoyed a blessed, warm, and wonderful holiday season. Personally, I had such a nice time meeting with everyone in November and December at the Mystical Moon. I will be back in April. We already have those dates set aside. These sojourns come together so very, very quickly. And I do suggest for everyone to be very mindful to just be in the moment. You know, whenever we observe so much discord and chaos in the outside world, my greatest suggestion to everyone: direct your attention towards the blessings that are already surrounding you, and you magnify that, and you enjoy and create even more. Once again, thank you for this opportunity. Remain in the light, always in a place of love. Blessings. Namaste.